And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week. Today, we're 100 days from November the 6th and the midterm congressional elections. You know, 100 days has been a political mile marker for a couple of centuries, dating back to the Napoleonic Wars. And in the United States, we tend to think of it more in terms of the first few months of any presidential administration. That's because Franklin Roosevelt, who actually coined the phrase, came up with using a special session of Congress, which coincidentally lasted about 100 days, to run through much of the New Deal program that was designed to overcome the devastating effects of the Great Depression. And so 100 days has been our yardstick, and now it's time to talk about what the next 100 days might look like leading up to the congressional midterms. You know, midterm elections have historically been not so good, generally really bad, and sometimes devastating to the party that holds the White House. In fact, in 35 of the last 38 midterm elections, the party in power has lost seats, sometimes an awful lot of them. Think about 63 seats in 2010, Barack Obama's first midterm election, when control of the Congress was shifted dramatically. And going back to the Civil War, the number of seats lost by the party in power in their first congressional midterm has been more than 30. That's a pretty good baseline, and it certainly would be more than enough to overcome the Republicans' relatively slim majority in the House right now and turn it over to the Democrats. On the Senate side, things are a little bit different. First of all, the trend lines are nowhere near as strong. In 19 out of the last 26 elections, the party in power has lost seat. That's not the same percentage as in the House, but more important, there's this unusual situation where, because not all of the seats in the Senate are up, the Democrats are forced to defend 25 of their 48. Of those 25, 10 are in states that Donald Trump carried, and 5 of them are in states that he carried by more than 20 points. That means that those are very precarious seats and very difficult for the Democrats to defend. It also means that their resources are going to be dedicated to doing that rather than challenging the Republicans for their seats. But the Republicans only have 8 seats to defend and only 1 in a state carried by Hillary Rodham Clinton. Meanwhile, the media has been abuzz about a potential blue wave that would sweep across the land and overcome the historic numbers that have been generated for the party out of power and lead the Democrats not only to control of the House, but by a significant margin. But you know, up until now, we really have not seen any evidence of that. In fact, the generic ballot, do you prefer Republican or Democrat control of Congress, has kind of been all over the place. It was plus 12 or 13 for the Democrats back just a few months ago. The Republicans narrowed that dramatically down to 2 or 3 points. It's now going back a little bit towards the Democrats for a variety of different reasons, but most of them centered around the President of the United States, because ultimately midterm elections hinge on the popularity of the president. That's historic, and it's not going to be any different this time around. President Trump's numbers have not been great. Typically, you need a president with an approval rating of 50% or higher to make the losses de minimis, or in fact to pick up seats. But the president's numbers are rising and have been so consistently. He's now up to 43% or so, which incidentally is higher than Barack Obama had in his last midterm election. So how much further that goes up is a huge factor in this election. But more important is the fact that they would be much higher if it weren't for this president's particular penchant for tweets and Twitters and unforced errors of the spoken word, to put it politely and mildly. And what's driving his popularity are the policies which are leading to economic growth and a booming economy. In fact, we're going to get GDP numbers right as this is heard by all of you that are going to be staggering, 4% plus growth in the economy. And we never got above 3% under President Obama. It was 1.5 his last year in office. So these are really terrific numbers. Unemployment at record lows. The market now with a 5-month high, and all sorts of economic indicators that are very positive. Ultimately, as Bill Clinton once observed, it's the economy, stupid. We're not really that dumb, but we do get that when people have more coins in their pocket, they're more likely to vote for the party that put them there. So there's a lot of ground to be covered between now and November 6th. Things are going to move and move dramatically based upon a whole lot of events. But ultimately, it's going to boil down to this. Are the Democrats correct in believing that Donald Trump's personality will dominate and that will lead to big successes for them? Or will the Republicans be able to force an economic message and one of prosperity to their advantage? Therein may lie who wins control of the House and perhaps the Senate in 2018. And for now, that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.